And we're live, folks, back again for a special edition episode of Lit Literature. This is your host, JP, aka The Demon, and we are here to discuss something kind of special. Our reaction to the Witcher series on Netflix. If you haven't caught it by the book that's in front of the laptop. We're kind of excited about this, but first we'll do a mini crew introduction. So let's go round table.
You got it. Yeah, well, gentlemen, as usual, I'm coming into you remote. Right now I'm on the islands of Skellige, and I just stumbled into an underground den. There's a lot of smoke around here. Kind of smells like maybe I fell into a necker nest. Oh, by the way, this is the captain.
Yeah, Ben the Hitman.
Nice. So short and sweet.
Yeah.
I like it. And there's only 3 of us today. So we were the only ones proactive enough to check out the first 3 episodes of The Witcher, which is what we'll be talking about today. So that's actually pretty fun because we are all, I think we're all Witcher fans, at least game-wise.
Yeah. I've only played the game, and I only played the 3rd game. So I have no experience with the book or the first 2 games.
Yeah, same here. I actually got into it because I heard such great things about the first games. Yeah. Then I got the 3rd one, and I fell in love. I got obsessed with it, actually. Is a good way to put it. So
yeah, exact same story for me as well. I just played the 3rd game, played it, beat it all the way through. I haven't yet to try the DLC, but that's been strongly recommended to everyone. Yes. And I've already listened to the soundtrack for the both of the expansions for Wild Hunt, and they're amazing. You know, it's like full orchestral quality music soundtrack. So I'm definitely, one of these days I'm going to replay The Witcher 3 and do all of the DLC tied along.
Yes, that sounds pretty amazing. So as you could tell, all 3 of us are doing this episode as a reaction based on the Netflix series. We love the game. We haven't read, and I know that's funny because our podcast is Lit Literature, but we have not read the source material for once. I did purchase it. We have some of the crew, I believe. Good old Billy and the Cherry, I believe, have both read the source material. They're not here with us today. So,
what was Billy's shout-out name?
Billy was... What was it? What was Billy?
I can't remember. He was definitely a shout-out with us at least 1 year.
Yeah, he was.
Billy.
Yeah.
He was the... Wow, this is shameful.
Billy
I know.
The Kid.
No, not Billy the Kid. Wow, we're going to have to check in on this. Oh, I wonder if he'll actually listen to this episode.
Yeah, Billy, if you're listening,
look for some
name
old
in the
photos.
comments.
Yeah.
Try to find them.
I know. You know what we'll do? We'll have to have... we'll definitely have to have him as a guest, and then... we'll refresh our memories.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea to do once we finish the series, maybe we could even read the first book, 3 of us, and see, do a review of the book comparison with the show, with the video game. That'd be... Yeah. I think that'd be nice.
I think it'd be super awesome. Also, I'm so curious because I've heard such mixed reviews from loyalists to the book. I've heard loyalists say, hands down, they love it. I've heard loyalists say they don't like it, and I've heard game loyalists both ways as well.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I didn't know what to expect, to be honest, going into this.
Yeah.
Why don't we start with a spoiler-free, just kind of like first 3 episodes gut reaction, a few seconds, not seconds, but like a minute each.
Well, I'll say when I first saw the trailers months ago, I was like, man, this looks terrible. I'm gonna watch this series up. And I was disappointed. But then I watched the first 2 episodes. I was like, alright, this is good. I'm getting into this. And then the 3rd episode was like, oh, I'm hooked. I gotta watch all of this now.
Captain?
Very, very nice Hitman. Yeah, I had pretty much the exact same reaction. I remember seeing some snippets of the early show footage, and I'm like, ooh, man, I don't know if this is going to be good. And then I saw a picture of the guy who plays Geralt, Henry Cavill, I believe is his name. And I'm like, ooh, man, I don't think this dude's going to be right for Geralt of Rivia. But I would say within 5 minutes of turning on the show, I'm like, okay, this dude is doing an awesome job. Like, he's doing just Geralt of Rivia. So I immediately was on board after seeing the show. Everything from his voice to his hair, costume, mannerisms.
Mannerisms were a big
his
one,
character
yeah.
sentimentality was all spot on for Geralt. So I fell in love with it right away.
I had a kind of a similar. So when I saw the trailer, I was cautiously optimistic, but I tend to be cautiously optimistic anyway. But I had a deep fear that I saw there was a lot of potential for this to be about as corny as you could get.
Yeah.
And
Right.
when they cast Henry Cavill, I like him as an actor. He's Superman, if you know. He's actually British. He's played a few other roles. He's in one of the new Mission Impossible movies. He's in a lot of stuff. And he's a good actor, but as Geralt, I was like, oh, man, I mean, it's awesome they bring in a big name like him.
Yeah.
So I'm like, they want that backing. But then I'm like, man, I hope they didn't, overcast that. I should have had more faith in him, to be honest.
Yeah, same here.
As an actor, I should have, because you're right. Right when it started, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna he's kind of Fabio-esque looking with
Right.
that. But young Geralt kind of does look Fabio-esque. I mean, let's be honest here. That's what he looks like. So, but then he started acting, the voice, the concern, the personality. It just was Geralt. He nailed it. And of course, I'm not a book reader, so I'm judging it from the writers of the game, right? So, and to me, I'm like, well, they sold that. The only thing he needs is some more scars and a beard, and he's the Geralt that I played. And some more experience, maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
The cool thing is, that's what we're going to get in this show, is the backstory to that. So I was sold in episode 1. I got really excited. After episode 1, it was action-packed. After a little bit, I'm like, man, this is way grittier and way better quality than I thought they were going to put into this. And then they just kept going. So by episode 3... I was in. I'm super pumped to go and watch the rest of the series.
Same here.
And I heard that they already renewed it for season 2.
Yeah, I read that
Nice.
as well
So,
today.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Super
Yeah.
excited.
So, all right. I guess if you haven't watched it yet, now is the time you probably want to stop listening to this podcast and move on to
Right.
watching it. With that said, we are going to dive into the first 3 episodes. Granted, there won't be tons and tons of spoilers, especially if you've read the source material, the book, or you are a game player, because a lot of it's historical stuff you heard about in the games, right? But you didn't actually live through it. It's all backstory. So let's just dive in. Initial reactions, it was all positive for us 3 at least. That's 3 of the team. So
Right.
I don't know about the other guys, but 3 of us are definitely giving you 3 thumbs up. So
Yeah.
let's get into the story, man. Episode 1.
Yeah,
Let's just go right down the line.
Yeah, right away it kicked off with a monster battle. If you're a player of The Witcher, any of the Witcher games, or a reader of the Witcher books, there's a really awesome balance that Andrzej Sapkowski, hopefully I didn't butcher his name too badly, like the Butcher of Blaviken. Hopefully, but yeah, he does an awesome job of really doing a 50-50 mix of monster horror action mixed with political intrigue from
Yes.
historical feudal times. So if either of those genres are up your alley, you are gonna love. And right away in the TV show, the series kicked off with a monster battle. It took place in a swamp, and the monster was called a Kikimora,
Yes.
which is something that I wasn't familiar with from the 3rd game. You guys remember that monster in the 3rd game?
I don't think
No,
we
I don't
had anything
remember.
to do with the Kikimora. However, I don't know if you looked it up, Captain, because you sometimes do Google beasts and such, but the Kikimora sounded really familiar to me, and I realized I don't know that it was in the game, unless I'm mistaken and my memory is failing me.
Yeah.
But I've definitely either read or played games where there was a Kikimora in existence, because the name itself was
Sounds familiar.
striking,
Yeah.
a bell.
That's one of the great staples of the Witcher series is a lot of the monsters that Geralt of Rivia fights are extracted directly from Slavic and Polish, Eastern European folklore.
Yeah.
Kikimora kind of sounds like maybe it's Asian or Japanese specifically in orientation, but I don't know, what that creature is from folklore-wise. But it would not surprise me at all if Kikimora is some sort of, malign, evil swamp spirit or something like that.
I got it right here, because I don't know why I didn't look it up beforehand for some reason, because it just, I don't know, I took it for granted that... but anyway, it's Slavic mythology.
Cool.
It's a female house spirit. In Slavic mythology, role in the house is usually juxtaposed with that of Domovoi, which must be another spirit. Whereas one of them is considered a bad spirit, the other a good one. When a Kikimora inhabits a house, she lives behind the stove or in the cellar and usually produces noises similar to those made in mice in order to obtain food.
I think I might have one of those in my apartment.
It looks really creepy. I'm looking at the illustration if you want to check out the wiki. I think what we were fighting was Kikimora on steroids in part 1 of this.
Yeah, it was like a gigantic swamp spider, like a kind of a part man, part spider. And one of my buddies who watched the show pointed out that Geralt easily could have died 10 times in that battle when he was submerged underwater.
Yes.
For whatever reason, the Kikimora didn't impale him when he had him pinned underwater. I mean, maybe you could chalk that up to the point that the monster couldn't see in that murky water either. But that particular fight scene probably wasn't as flawless as it could have been.
Agreed. I was actually wondering myself, I'm like, he's not really doing a lot to dodge right now. Because I could feel him. It was holding him down with one of its arms and piercing with the other. And I guess maybe he was kind of doing this,
Yeah.
But then I got the sense that so they have used some magic and some of the potions and stuff that the Witcher has in the show, but not all of them. So who knows? Maybe he had one of those... wasn't there a potion or something that made people miss regularly or something that we took in The Witcher?
Yeah, there's
something
a ton
like
of
that, right?
a big part of battle preparation in Witcher is potion mixing.
Yeah, which they did show a little bit of that stuff in the
do.
show, but they just touch on it briefly.
We didn't see in the first episode, but he was definitely under the effects of a potion.
Yeah, because
just judging from later in the third episode.
Right.
Yeah. However, I agree with the captain in this one. They maybe could have done a little more. He's reaching for his sword, and he's just like, "Thank God it's missing."
Yeah.
But we're being nitpicky at this point because
Right.
it was still enjoyable. But yeah, I totally agree with you, Captain. Hands down.
Yeah, I felt really bad for the little baby fawn, obviously, who got injured, and then Geralt ends up culling it for food because it's an injured animal, it's probably not going to survive very long, and that's kind of a good preview of Witcher sentimentality, in that sometimes Geralt will succeed in his mission, but in the end it doesn't help anyone in any way, or it doesn't really do much good in the long run, which is kind of a recurring theme in the series. So you get a little sour taste of that right away in the story.
It's really funny because he keeps saying it's really just about killing monsters and collecting gold.
Right.
Because I think he's lived that so long, and so many times he tries to do good, and it kinda does, kinda doesn't.
Right.
And he's always dealing with pretty, I don't know, human. When I say human, I mean not always the best of human, the human population.
Yeah.
He's sometimes dealing with some, not the best kind of people, and so
Right.
It's amazing that he still has the faith in humanity he seems to carry, but they do definitely give you a taste of that vibe that you might get throughout the series.
Yeah, they set audience expectation right away. One theme that's explored very early in this whole series, in the show and then throughout the series, we'll see it again and again, is choosing between the lesser of two evils.
Yes.
And Geralt's character, pretty quickly, as an audience, you get to see him make the decision where he's aware that he's being forced to choose between the lesser of two evils, And Geralt, as a character, will actively say, no, I'm not going to choose this. Like, I prefer not to choose at all and just go with the flow and see what happens.
Yeah.
So he's not, Geralt does obviously play a pivotal role in the outcome of a lot of major historical events in this world, but he's often more of a reactive decision maker rather than a preemptive.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think we'll have a little bit of a discussion about that point because this kind of starts off, and I'm not sure exactly how it's done in the books, but I think the character, what was her name? I should know this.
Renfield?
Renfri. Princess Renfri plays a role in his conscience for some time after that. And so, when some kind of sleazy wizard, and definitely this to me was just like perfect because it just set up, it had the vibe of The Witcher hands down. Like, you're getting recruited by a sleazy wizard to do something that's kind of good, but you're wondering, really?
How good is it really?
Like, how good is it really going to be?
And maybe it's good if you take him at his word. Is it necessary? We don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no way to know.
Right.
So, but he had the opportunity to interact with Renfri, and he liked her. And they connected. They had, she was a mutated human, I guess, so magic doesn't really work on her. And so obviously the wizard doesn't like that and was clearly making excuses for his scientific experiments.
Right. Yeah. He really wanted to have that autopsy on her body a little too bad.
Yes, so there was definitely some creepy stuff going on there that he was getting away with. But he did, The Witcher, like, in this case, Geralt made the point, saying he's not going to choose between the two evils, and it actually has a conversation with the girl and says, just let it go, man, get out of here, go live your life, I'm not going to try to kill you then. I turned him down. Just don't force me to get in this. I mean, if she wanted to go kill the wizard, or the wizard wanted to kill her without Geralt of Rivia being involved, he would have been like, talk to you when it's over, I hope. See ya.
Right.
But she tried to force him into it again.
How did she try to force him into it?
She said that she was going to kill the little girl that he told her about, in the shopping mart if he didn't get involved and kill the wizard.
Right. Yeah, she didn't really reveal her hand until the very final moments where she said, I'm going to kill everyone in this market until the wizard Estigar, I think was his name, until he comes down and faces me.
Well, she also said it's your destiny. Remember that dream sequence?
Yeah.
That she had with Geralt? Because they didn't. Surprisingly, because of the previews, you might think that this was going to be rompy sex, like, all over the place.
Right.
Like, the preview had, like, Geralt of Rivia in a tub, like, naked, and there's, like, women around.
That's an infamous meme from the game.
Yeah, it is an... But, what's funny is they kind of glossed over, or just implied, maybe, that Geralt was either drugged, or maybe they did have a little bit of a moment in the woods, but he had this memory where she's like, if you don't come to the square or whatever, the young girl's dead.
Airkill, I think, was the girl's
Miracle, yeah. And so that's what actually drove him to go back there. But I don't know. I have to go back and rewatch it. But
I'm going to rewatch it. Because my one complaint with this series is the sound. Like, I can't hear the actors talking sometimes. They mumble. I'm like, what was that? I need to watch it with subtitles.
Must be all the British. Yeah.
I did watch it with subtitles.
I do too. I have them on as well.
Helped tremendously.
Yeah. Now I also blast my volume ridiculously and surround sound all over. So I'm probably hearing most of what I need to hear. But to be safe, I have subtitles on just because. I watch a lot of Japanese stuff, so it does help for digesting language.
Yes.
So,
on that same note, gentlemen, on the topic of sound, the one thing that I absolutely loved and I kind of wanted even more of in the show was the battle music that
Oh,
you get to
yeah.
listen to in the game.
Yes.
And they do have it in the show. It's very subtle and it's a little distorted. It's a little different from how some of the Eastern European type music was, kind of like gypsy type music in the game. But some of those same instruments are used for the battle music in the show. It's a little distorted and it's very subdued, but you still get it. And as I was watching those fight scenes, I'm like, yes, this is Witcher right here. Like,
Yes.
they nailed it. And I kind of wanted a little bit more volume out of that music.
Yes.
But I could understand why they would have it kind of toned down.
It's almost like they want to like kind of give you a little bit of the video game, but then they're like,
Right.
we don't want to go too much because this is its own thing.
Right.
So they don't want to, they don't want to like do. But I agree with you, man. Every once in a while, too, it'll do a cutscene and it'll have a little bit of music going on at the cutscene.
Yeah.
Like change scenery from one spot to another, and you'll get like a scoping shot, and they'll start to play a little bit of that like music, and then you're just like, oh, and then it goes back into the
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
the pinnacle fight scene for me, and I think you guys would probably agree, is the scene where Geralt dispatches all of Renfri's underlings.
Yeah, oh my god,
the
that was
slow
awesome.
motion in that was so amazing. He mixes in his Witcher abilities.
Yes.
He uses. I can't remember what the basically like the force push move is called.
Yeah, wasn't Igni the fire one?
I
Yes,
think so.
Igni's fire.
What?
The shield one that he uses in episode 3 is Quen.
Yes. Oh, dude, it was so awesome. The cutscenes where he would use it.
Yeah.
I actually, I couldn't believe they did that and made it work so
Right.
well.
Right.
Like, because I'm like, that would look so corny if they did that, but no, it looked awesome.
Yeah.
They really did a great job getting that cut.
I agree,
So-
man. Yeah.
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah,
look
but
that up real
he
quick.
uses the force push a few times, and man, especially this is jumping the gun a little bit, but in episode 3 he uses it against the
Striga.
Striga.
The Striga.
And like she gets blasted through the hallway, and you can literally see the animator's animated dust motes flying behind her. I'm like, dude, that is some freaking awesome CGI right there.
Yes, I think I've got it here. Let's see here.
Did you like the
Abilities.
fight scenes as well, Hitman?
I did. I'm glad they didn't do like 100 cuts per minute fight scenes. They annoy me so much. It was well cut, and they actually had like whole movements.
Agreed. It was not like the last season of
times.
Game of Thrones.
Yes. So really cool is well, first of all, Henry Cavill is in shape a lot. He was Superman, and he had been in shape for several other roles, like the Immortals and some other things.
Well, being in shape is different than knowing how to use a sword.
Exactly.
Right.
And because of the stunts that they do, I was listening to him talk on YouTube about all the things that he does because they wanted that continuous sword action. So, and they can't have him get injured. So he's doing all kinds of strange like exercises with the core and twisting and stuff like that so that he can literally do all of this kind of stunt work and try not to get injured. And they cut between. I can't find it right now, guys. I apologize, but I will look that up. We have Igni and Quen, but we cannot remember the damn one that we all used so
Force
often.
push, yeah.
Force push. It was like Jedi power, whatever that one was.
Right.
But the one thing that I think is really cool when they do that is they commit to getting the actor on board to doing this kind of stuff because it does make a difference
Makes a huge difference.
in the long run. The cut, constant cutting, you get the effect, but you lose the realism and kind of like the beauty of the gritty combat that you would get otherwise. So I was really happy to see that.
Yeah, because one of the best people, a little off topic of those scenes, is Jackie Chan and all his old 80s movies and early 90s movies.
Yeah, man.
It's so
Rumble in the
amazing.
Bronx.
Yes.
Constant cut. Constant takes.
Yeah, I know it takes a lot of effort to do that because you need to find skilled people.
Yeah.
You need to find actors, and when they do it, it's amazing.
That's the other advantage you have to any Keanu Reeves movie. is because he's so well trained in both. I'm talking about John Wick right now, folks. You didn't get it. But because he's so well trained in both martial arts, specifically judo and gunmanship, he can do a lot of the stunt work that they need in long action scenes. I was really happy to see that with this. For a show like Witcher, where you're going to have that action, it's critical. Yeah. And I was talking to several people, including my brother, who said, like, I could not believe the intensity I felt during the action scenes. And I was like, this is why. It's because they're able to do these long shots, and it makes you nervous. It's like real fast-paced stuff.
One of the things that bothers me so much, when they have a action movie or show, and the main actor can't fight at all. And it's just, what the hell? Why would you cast this guy who can't fight? I'm thinking about the Iron Fist off the top of my mind. Oh my god.
Yes.
Why?
I agree, Hitman.
Just cast somebody who can fight. Well, you know, I understand there is some aspect of like, oh, I want to get a guy who could fight and can act. That could be hard, but nowadays you could find them.
Yeah.
And nowadays acting is becoming such a like they're adopting more and more of the necessary traits that are required for the role. I mean, so yeah, I agree.
On that same note, for the combat, the violence in the Witcher series is just like super visceral and pretty violent. It's a Netflix original show, so they can get away with more than some of the other Netflix can. But man, the violence is very gut wrenching and visceral. It reminded me of like Game of Thrones level violence, where every once in a while somebody gets murdered and you just cringe. You're like, oh god, that looked brutal. And I think this would be a good tie-in to the whole story of Centra, which was the whole origin story behind Ciri. This was something that I was not aware of, and this may have been covered in the book, I don't know. But only playing the third game, obviously, by the time the Wild Hunt, Ciri's already an adult, so you don't get any of her, of her backstory in that game. But you get to see the origin of Ciri as a young girl, and there's this kingdom. I'm assuming it's kind of in the central of their continent, and it's attacked by Nilfgaard, who is also the aggressor in the Wild Hunt. And they don't take any prisoners, and the violence that they use on the people of Centra is really gut-wrenching, brutal violence.
No prisoners whatsoever.
So, they really ramp up. Like, it was kind of weird in the Wild Hunt. I didn't see Nilfgaard as all evil, but in the show, it definitely positions them where it's like, these guys are pretty evil. Nilfgaard's pretty corrupt.
I'm curious to see how it progresses. Because right now,
too. Yeah.
That's how there's freaking Nazis coming in, killing everybody.
Well, it's so interesting because they even talk about, although we're talking about two different timelines at the point, because we're also getting Yennefer's storyline. Yeah. That's two different times, but you're meeting this young kind of prick of a king. The king of Nilfgaard at the time is young and spending all his money on women. We don't know if he's still the king in the current spot or not.
I would imagine there's been a new replacement, because the king of Tyria was the guy who was voiced by Charles Dance, who was Tywin Lannister. And he voiced the character in the video game and did the voice capture for that guy in Witcher 3.
Right.
So I would say that it's probably not that guy as a younger one. He probably stepped in after this young, super horny Nilfgaard guy probably get off.
Yeah. That or it was him when he was... Oh, yeah. You know what? Well, the other thing is we don't know, because this is even in the past of the Wild Hunt.
Right.
So it could be literally three different kings.
Yeah.
But
it could even be multiple kings.
Or it could be the same guy in totally different phases of his life.
It could be. He just matured.
Some stuff online about the characters, it's like the ages. And if it goes from the book, Yennefer's a couple hundred years old.
Yes.
And she's the oldest, so I don't know if that's taking place in the past, or they just like squish it all together, so she's 20 in the series.
This is what I read online. So even in the books, Yennefer's story is backstory. Because the books start where Geralt of Rivia is right now. But what they did in the show is they wanted to visually show that versus just have it be told through the story in the book. So they decided to actually show the story. And so we didn't even know until episode 3, truly. I mean, you may know if you follow Witcher and you know the backstory of the characters, but you didn't realize that the timelines were even different until Yennefer doesn't show up at the assembly. They're in Nilfgaard at the ball, and little King...
Cultist.
Cultist.
King Foltest.
Foltest, yeah. Little King Foltest is there as a kid with his sister Ada. And then you're like, holy crap. Oh, that's right, it's 2 different timelines. Now, because we're a little more aware of Yennefer's character and her age, we realize, oh yeah, that's right. They're going backwards and telling Yennefer's story, because by the time Geralt of Rivia meets her, she's a different person. And I thought that was kind of a cool little ad. Because, I don't know, I don't think you would get the impact of what happened to Yennefer without having to kind of like visually see that. Right. In a book, it's different because you're reading anyway, right? But in a show, I think it was pretty powerful to watch her. And by the way, props to that actress to act what she did act, even with the prosthetics that she dealt with. It didn't come off as corny as I thought it would at all. Yeah. Which I was like, holy crap, she did it.
One of the problems I had with her, though, when I was watching that episode, I guess it was the 3rd episode, it's like, maybe she's bringing all these troubles onto herself.
Yeah.
And like, people are manipulating her into like stuff because it's a power play. But then she's like, oh, I'm not going to go and get ascended and remade. And then she decides to get remade. And it's like, no, I don't need any medicine. Yeah. It's like, all this pain you're going through is just, I feel like that's her life story. It's all self. And inflicted.
I think that's actually maybe an important point. Because, and part of it, remember, coming from such a terrible backstory, she's almost like obsessed to a degree of things that other people don't, like, even that one guy I felt bad for. I forget his name now. The other mage.
Yeah, that guy was Istred.
Istred, yeah. He, like, at first I'm like, oh man, he is playing her. And then by the end, I was like, oh my God, you're such a bitch.
Yeah.
Like, I felt bad for the guy. I was like, holy crap. He actually,
Yeah.
But, we don't know yet. We have yet to be seen. But she is a person who thought she was going to be nothing but an outcast, as you can say, piglet, valued less than a pig. So I think that, Ben, you're right. She probably does inflict a lot of that on herself, mainly because of those issues.
And that's why I felt too. It's like, man, she can't get over this, and now she's just inflicting all this other stuff to make it seem worse. Like, and then her past seemed worse, and then she does it, so it is worse.
Yeah, it's even weirder because we know Yennefer from the games, and even like later as the books, I think is quite a long time past. She's like the most confident, like
right,
past not by, like, so she's like a totally different person. So it's really kind of fun to watch the development story in this case.
Yeah, big time. I think Yennefer is a spectacular character, especially considering it's a TV series. Man, they really knocked it out of the park with her character. Immediately, I felt just extreme sympathy for her because she was in such a horrible situation.
Yeah.
But they really kind of, because she was only, Yennefer's story was only in episodes 2 and 3.
Yes.
And so it progressed extremely rapidly. Like, she was a novice at the tower, at the start of episode 2, and then by the end of that same episode, she had already ascended, and her other companions were turned into eels to feed the tower.
Talk about not wanting to fail.
Right.
Oh my god.
So yeah, oh my god, that training is more brutal than anything I could have ever imagined. But yeah, I do agree, guys. The whole sequence where she kind of broke up the relationship between her and Istrid was really unfortunate. I understand why they did it, and it did seem a bit rushed. And it was a little discouraging because Istrid had a solution for her. Like he did sell her down the river by informing his master that she had elven blood, which kind of screwed her future plans. She did the exact same thing, and Istrid had a solution worked out where he's like, "Hey, even though our plans for court life have been ruined, we can go explore the world together and check out these ancient elven ruins and stuff." And they kind of just really turned it around, like Yennefer was like, "Oh, I didn't want to do that at all. That was your plan. Like, how dare you put that plan on me?" Which I felt was kind of rushed in a way, or like really severely handled. But I mean, in the time constraints of the show, I understand why they did it. Yeah. But that part was a little unsatisfying.
The unfortunate thing is to tell that backstory in true. They need more time. But the problem is they're basically trying to give you a taste of Yennefer's backstory to catch her up to the real story. Because, and so, like, I also felt, like, it felt to me, because TV, like, if you watch fantasy TV, that could go on forever. Training at the tower, like, the gradual progression. I mean, that could have been a show in its goddamn self.
Like Arya's entire season 5 arc in freaking Game of Thrones.
But they decided
at the Faceless Temple.
I know, right? Trying to get the Faceless Temple. But they instead decided we're going to... we weren't... In the book, we're not supposed to show the backstory, supposedly. They just talk about it. So let's show it. But now they're stuck because who knows how long she was supposed to be there? Like 10 years? Or
I'm thinking that was probably over the course of like a year.
At least.
It seemed like it, yeah.
At least a year. It could have been longer. We don't know about this mage aging stuff. So I think that they made that choice. The good thing that they did about it is, because I agree it wasn't quite satisfying, but at least we got the picture. We realized that he did actually like her. He wasn't, just toying with her. And we also got that she is a little twisted at this point, and she is definitely out and in prioritizing, which we know changes later in her life, but prioritizing power, position, beauty.
Yennefer is ready to make a power play at the drop of a hat. That's that's always kind of been part of her character. And in the show, as soon as she gets that ability, as soon as she's able to make that decision, she takes it. So it's a really cool character that they built up for her, and I appreciate a lot of the work that they did in the very short amount of time that they had to do it.
Yeah.
And the whole transformation at the end of episode 3, where she walks out to the pavilion at the mage party and wows the king of Adrian, was just spectacular. Like, Yennefer's got the world on a silver platter right now. Like, that girl can get anything done.
But one thing that bothered me about that scene is, at that point, everyone in that room was remade, and so they all the wizards and witches are supposed to be like spectacular looking,
right? And Yennefer was really the only one. But yet she still
stands out, and she's like, "Oh, she's the most beautiful," and her classmate looked exactly the same.
Right? Well, both of her classmates who passed looked exactly the same.
I was thinking about that a little bit, and I'm like, if you don't really need to get remade, then you don't have to give up some of your stuff, right? Like it seems like a process that you do have to sacrifice to do so.
Yeah, you give up your reproduction,
and who knows what it is with a guy. Like,
Yeah.
I might turn them down flat, no offense, depending on what they're actually removing.
Yeah.
Right. It would probably be the
I
same,
thought it was weird because
but you just...
Yeah.
I just thought it was weird because the school teacher brought up a good point that everyone has something about themselves that they don't like or would change.
Right.
So it seemed like that's just part of ascending is being remade into the perfect sorcerer.
Yeah.
Like more confident because you're advising kings. You have to be confident in
I
control.
think that's something that I'm curious if they elaborate more on in the book, or if it is like everybody does it, or is it, you know what I mean? It's just kind of curious to me.
Yeah, I haven't read the book, so
yeah,
can't say.
Same here.
But I was curious about that. I was almost about to look it up. I was kind of like at that point where I'm like, is this like, tradition? What are they really? You know what I mean? It's like they hinted at a ton of that.
Right.
But maybe that's all that we're designed to get. And in the time constraints, I guess. Certainly, I'm not complaining. I feel like almost I was so impressed by it, the show that it's a show, not a movie. That it's a show that I was kind of like. I mean, it's pretty good to the point where it could spoil other cheesier shows for me now. Because I'm complaining about that stuff, but I would have just like blindly accepted that in like Farscape.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
yeah, and that's fine.
It didn't bother me that much. I just thought it was weird, like something like they could have done differently, but.
Yeah, I do know that it's really interesting because the discussion on Yennefer is that she's supposed to be very beautiful, I guess. Like, even in the realm of the sorceresses. But Geralt of Rivia, like, notices her imperfections. And so that was discussion a lot online, and so I'm curious to see how that actually
plays in the future.
Yeah, like, and what is enchantment? Like, it seemed like for her, like, they just reshaped her, literally. But he said, enchant. Once I enchant you, is there a difference between when he, like, totally recreates you or just enchants you? You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Well, it seems like she was recreated.
Her, like, whole body was
morphed. And
that scene, we'll get to it when we start talking about 3, but that whole scene pairing was, like.
Yeah, it was awesome. I was actually really scared that they were going to have a different actress play Yennefer. And I'm like, no, I don't want this actress to leave. And then, you get to see her, it's like, oh, man, she was really that actress all along.
Yeah.
I was really, like, surprised and happy. It was the same
she did an awesome job, and they did a great job making her look both ways. So.
Right. Agreed.
So let's go jump back to the end of episode 1.
Yeah.
So we got through. Okay. So Geralt was given a test between the scumbag sorcerer and the princess,
Renfri.
and we get to meet the scumbag sorcerer later, who's in hiding for some reason, but he still gets to sit on the council.
Right.
Well, no. Now that I know it's a time difference. It was before. So when he was sitting on the council, he was a legit guy, but then his shenanigans got him into hiding.
Hiatus, yeah.
Which actually cracked me up a little bit now.
It did, yeah. There was one thing this is kind of breaking away from your point, Demon. Should I save this or...
No, just go for it. I don't care.
There was one thing that I really liked, and I think other players of the Witcher 3 game would appreciate, is there's... Even as early as episode 1, they throw in a bunch of little teasers and references to all these other places. And from playing the game, I'm like, ooh, I know that. Ooh, I know that. Like, when they were talking about the Kingdom of Centra, which is already long gone by the time third starts. But the Queen, Queen Calanth is her name in the show.
Okay.
She married a dude from Skellige. Who, obviously, that's a big part of the third game.
Right,
Skellige
I'm remembering
Island.
this now.
So her husband was kind of a younger guy who was, probably a very battle, heavy dude like all the Skellige folk are. It was really cool to hear those references, like that guy was from Skellige and that he had reinforcements coming in via ship. eventually didn't end up making it, but it was cool to hear that, and it's like, ooh, I know that place. Or when the mages mentioned Toussaint, that's the whole region that's in the expansion in Blood and Wine, the Blood and Wine expansion. So hearing that was like, ooh, I know that area. Like, I know that land that they're referencing.
It really is amazing how well they threw those little tidbits in.
Yeah.
Expand, like the world expansion. It almost feels like you could watch the show, play the game, and it's like cohesive.
Yes.
Right?
It's funny. I'll just add this too. I saw this little factoid on Reddit that after the series, the first weekend of the series being out, the online players of The Witcher jumped to 1 million.
Everyone is like, oh, this is bringing back.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I gotta go back into this and play.
Yeah, just wait for Witcher 4 now. The series is going to propel the Witcher 4 now.
I really hope that the series pushes them to...
Oh, man.
That makes it awesome.
I gotta admit, it is really nice to see that. The bad thing is, it's been a long time for me. And so I was just trying to remember it all. Like, I would recognize words and names, places, but I'd be like, and then suddenly something would dawn on me, and I'm like, oh, that's her.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or something like that.
Yeah,
so it's kind
everything's just a vague impression for me because it's been so long.
Yeah.
So, that sounds familiar.
So, so we get out of the first episode with Geralt feeling very down on himself. He ends up killing the girl he didn't want to kill her, the lesser of the evils. Probably the true lesser.
I really liked Renfri. I wanted her to live, because right away she's like a hard drinking, awesome, super charismatic girl. And, she's a badass. She's really good with swords and stuff. And she unfortunately, we're not going to get to see any more of Renfri. But because she, like you mentioned earlier, Demon, she left kind of like a lasting prophecy on him. Which kind of ties into the Black Sun prophecy in the books. We may see some more like hallucinatory flashbacks of her as the series progresses. Because obviously she left her mark on Geralt.
Yeah. And we don't know the full extent of what her mutations or powers were.
Yeah.
We know that magic doesn't work very well on her. But we might know
the creepy old wizard, whatever his name was,
Ostagar, I think.
Wasn't the prophecy that the children of the Black Moon, if that's what it was would cause the end of humanity?
Yes,
something like that.
That is correct, Hitman. Yeah. Basically, those children would pave the way for like some demon queen or something take over all of the area or whatever it was.
Okay.
That was kind of the Black Sun prophecy. I talked to Billy really briefly before this podcast because he had read the books, and he said the Black Sun prophecy is talked about a lot in the books, and they blitz through it really fast in the show because they kind of have to.
Yeah.
But he said Renfri didn't exist in the books, but there was a character who was very similar to her in one of expansions of the game. That was all.
The best thing about this like Witcher world is even the author I've read was like very blasé with his like character. What's the word I'm looking for?
Borrowing his characters.
Yeah, like he would kind of like make them one way and then decide that like it didn't serve his purpose later on.
Oh.
And it was more important for him to like.
So he's got adaptable
instead of worrying
characters.
about cohesiveness. Yeah, instead of worrying about cohesiveness, he was kind of more like, "Oh, this would be really cool."
Yeah,
like that's what I heard. I don't know the truth, so maybe some of those legit book fans could comment and let me know if I'm crazy. But this is just some commentary I read about from people, and so like I think it allows work like that allows for great adaptions into other medium. Because when you adapt it into medium, you're not 100% worried about anything but just getting the core of everything and then kind of following the general storyline. So, and even the storyline, I mean, like Witcher 3 doesn't even exist in the books. They just took the core people and events and kind of like elongated it into its own story, and they kept the spirit alive. So, could be a fantastic multi-creative endeavor, show, game, and book.
Right.
Where everything is playing off of each other, you know, which might be a very unique. May allow a different kind of universe, multi-platform universe, to kind of exist where there's not one canon universe. But who knows? That's just theory and gibberish from me. I got to get a refill, guys. So if you want to take over for a minute, you need one?
Should we call an end to episode 1 and then continue this, get into episode 2?
We can.
Yeah,
we're at
sounds
54.
good to me.
Cool.
Cheers.
All right,
Cheers.
gentlemen.
We'll do
cheers.
it. I hope you're enjoying episode 1. You're actually getting 2 on the first 3, folks.
Gentlemen, let's do a quick toast to Renfri.
Renfri.
Probably not see any longer.
My last sip.
Toast to you, Renfri.
Thanks again for joining us for this episode of Lit Literature. If you liked us, please check out our social media at Lit Literature 1 at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't hesitate to join in on the conversation. We appreciate the conversation, the questions, book recommendations, anything of that sort. Join in right on the social media websites. And don't forget to check us out at our website, litliterature.com, and our upcoming projects, though there aren't many now besides Lit Literature, you can find at lyket.net, Lyket. We do have a Patreon account, but if you truly want to support us, please like and share. Cheers.